So for the last couple of years, I have been in possession of a second-hand Nikon D70. The D70 has only one lens with it. This is the 18-70 3556 ED kit lens. Does not have image stabilization. Runs on compact flash memory, and battery life when charged is pretty darn good. There are a couple of things that I'm concerned about, though, regarding this camera. First of all, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, which means that I've gotten used to being able to transfer wirelessly the content of my Sony video camera onto my phone for uploading, for example, to YouTube or sending to friends. That's not the biggest issue, though, with transferring images. The biggest issue that I have has to do with the compact flash format. The compact flash cards are slowly but surely on the way out. They're still being used, but at the same time, this XQD format that Nikon themselves have started to use, I think we'll be replacing that, which means when those cards go kaput, I guess I'm just a little anxious about the camera's longevity for that reason. Another reason is the screen on the back was perfectly good for its time, but I have to say I'll preview an image on the back of the D70 screen, but I absolutely will not make final judgment before I put it into the computer. And the screen is a 1.5 inch what is it? Not even 640 by 480. It's a very low resolution screen by today's standards. The camera does not have live view, which these days I would say is a definite advantage, because you get to see exactly what you're going to shoot before you take it in terms of adjusting for what I call the exposure triangle: your aperture, your ISO, and your shutter speed. Now, usually what I like to take pictures of are still objects, flowers, landscapes especially. And the reason is because due to my lack of peripheral vision, I have a hard time tracking anything that moves quickly. So basically my reasons for looking at something beyond the D70 are primarily due to its longevity with the memory format. I'm also concerned about the batteries. The batteries for now are fine, but one of these days they're going to go poof. And the camera is already 10 years old as it is, and I don't want to end up in a situation where I need to replace the batteries. I've got two of them. I don't want to end up in a situation where I need to replace the batteries and all of a sudden can't. Now, I've also got a battery clip that can be used with the D70. The problem is, it takes these really bizarre, I think either N or quadruple A or something really unusual like that. It's not a standard format at all for these batteries. Now, what I'm actually looking at is, because I've got the 18-70 ED, I was thinking about a couple of things. I'm thinking about staying within the Nikon system and maybe getting a D5500 body only. And I have decided that I do want to go with the second lens. In fact, I've been toying about this possibility for the last couple of years. I already know what I want. I just have to get around to eventually picking it up. And that is a 35mm 1.8. Which on the DX format body would be equivalent of what they call standard prime. In other words, what you see with your eye is what a standard prime would be. And I'd like to experience taking pictures with that, because a lot of people these days, they have
5 o'clock p.m.
They have these really long zoom lenses, 18 to 300 meters, which I understand their purpose. Like if you're a parent and you're in the stands and you're watching your child play soccer or baseball, there you go. But if you're out and about, to me, it just seems like the best zoom mechanism is your own feet. But that's just my opinion. So one of the options that I have, again, is going with the D5500 body alone. It does have Wi-Fi, it does have live view, it does have video recording, and I'd be able to transfer the current lens that I have over from the D70 to the D5500. There is one little concern that I have about doing that, though. The D5500 is what they consider a compact SLR, whereas the D70 is more of a mid-sized. That 18 to 70 millimeter is a pretty bulky lens as far as kit lenses go. As a result, I don't know, it seems to me like the 18 to 70 would be a little front heavy. But I'd have to try it for sure. But if anybody out there has that particular combination or knows somebody that does and can comment on that. So another possibility that I have is switching systems completely. One of the, because I only have one lens, it wouldn't be a terrible loss. One of the things that I've always liked about the Canon Rebel series is their one of the things that I really like is their lens selection. They've got a very good lens selection. In fact, they and Nikon are neck to neck. But one of my favorite items is the articulating touchscreen. Now, of course, Nikon still has this as well, but from what I understand, it basically took them some real pushing to put it in there. And in addition to the articulating screen, there is one thing that the Rebel T6S has that the D70 does not. That the D70 has, but the D5500 does not, and that is this top information screen. Why is that important? Well, I like to shoot with the optical viewfinder, but depending on the situation and depending on how my eyes are on that particular day, the exposure information might be a little hard to make out. It also depends on the lighting condition of the particular site that I'm at. As a result, the top information screen really comes in play here. And Canon's got something on their information screens that Nikon never has. I think until recently. Does the D70-200 have it? Maybe. But I'm looking at reducing weight here. This is the only compact SLR on the market that has a top information screen, and on that top information screen is the exposure metering, so I can more effectively see on the top what all my settings are, my shutter speed, my aperture, my ISO, aka digital film speed, set those up accordingly, and have a general idea of where things are going to be when I put the camera to my eye to compose the shot. That way I don't have to do too much adjusting. And it would be a lot easier. So if I were to get this, I think it would be body only, and I'd probably pick up just the one lens, which is, again, their equivalent of the 35mm 1.8. Although, because it's a new system, I might also go with an 18 to 135 EFS 3.5 to 5.6 kit. But again, these are all options I'm playing with. This also, it has Wi-Fi. With the app, I think you can do remote shooting, which I don't know if I'll use that, but the main thing that I'm concerned about is being able to offload the photos on a vacation to friends and send them to text and email in real time without having to use a computer in the middle. Because if I'm out on site, if I'm out, say, at a botanical gardens, for instance, at the botanical gardens in Maryland, as an example, let's say I'm out there, and I love this bird or this plant that I'm taking a photo of, and I wish my friends were there. Well, being able to offload to my iPhone in between shots and send it via picture message I feel like that in some way that allows them to feel like they were really there with me in real time, taking the tour with me, even though they weren't able to make it. So I think that Wi-Fi really does have its purpose there. So far what I'm thinking is the D5500 or switching systems completely and going with a Rebel T6S. There are other options too. One of them is the Fuji XT-1. There's a reason that I like the XT-1. It too, again, Wi-Fi, nice big sensor. That's the other thing. I want to keep the nice big sensor picture quality that I've got with the D70. But I want to reduce the weight. But the other thing that I love is I know how to manipulate the exposure triangle. I know how to manipulate my shutter speed to get a fast shot of a race car. I know how to manipulate my shutter speed to get a nice blurry waterfall. I know how to manipulate my aperture to get a nice out of focus background effect, say on a flower in a forest. So I know about the exposure triangle. And because of that, I feel like I would like to have a camera that caters to the photo enthusiast. This does, and I'll tell you why. Up here on the right, which would be your left, but if you're using the camera to be on the right, shutter speed dial, exposure compensation dial, aperture ring, ISO. These are the only things that you would really need. And one of the things that I do get confused about from time to time with the D70 when operating it on manual is I've got two dials to work with, and ISO is a dedicated button, so that's not a problem. But I always get confused about which of the two control shutter speed and which of the two control aperture. And I personally would like to I personally think that shooting in manual is the best way to do it. And the reason why is because, for those of you that do not know, I've been practicing yoga for a couple of years. And one of the things that I've learned in class is to basically slow down and smell the flowers. Because I like to take pictures of still objects, I've got all the time in the world. And because I like to determine what the artist sees in my mind, you know, and bring that to life with the camera. And I feel like shooting on manual allows me to really be at one with the camera, not let the computer do anything, but to actually manipulate all aspects of the image. And you know, it's just a wonderful experience. So I really like the Fuji control layout. The dedicated aperture ring again, shutter speed, exposure. Exposure compensation's over here, but ISO over here. Drive underneath that. It's just extremely easy to use, and you know exactly where everything is. With a little muscle memory, it's like boom. You know, you don't have to remember anything. You just put your hand on the right dial and boom, because it's always going to be the same. It never changes. Part of the problem with the Fujis is they are a little steep in price. The body alone, I think, is about $1,200 or $1,300. And this, which lens is this? It's mounted here. This is the 18-55 kit. Well, I took a look at their 35-1.4. That one is $500. So I'm also trying to keep my pocketbook in check. And in case anybody's wondering, when are you planning on purchasing? I'm thinking about this maybe as a Christmas gift, but I want to start now so I can have a very, very good idea of my options and keep an eye on the market and see what happens over the coming years, over the year, and see if there's anything introduced before the holiday season. But for now, so I really like the control layout of the Fuji. In fact, I like it so much that I'm considering two Fujis, and the other one is the X100T. The X100T, again, same thing, live view, Wi-Fi, the same control mechanism. It's an f2, 35mm fixed lens, 35mm equivalent, I'm sorry, fixed lens. Shutter speed, aperture, exposure compensation, and on the back is a thumb dial that I can use to change ISO. The only concern that I have about these rangefinder kind of cameras is, and this is why I prioritize live view, especially with the mirrorless cameras, these off-center viewfinders are not good for me because I'm left-eye dominant. And I don't know, I guess I've never actually seen one of these in person, so I must stress that. But from what I've seen in the pictures, it seems to me like I would crunch my nose up against a button or accidentally push something, you know. I just don't want to take a chance of that happening. But basically my options are D5500. So D5500, Rebel T6S, Fuji XT-1, or the Fuji X100T. Now, these two would have to come with an additional lens, so if anybody out there wants to help me out in terms of pricing, you have to remember, we'll have to factor that in. And in case you're wondering, again, 35mm fast prime, 50mm equivalent. But the big things I want are Wi-Fi, I want to keep the big sensor photo quality. I'd like something compact, and if at all possible, I would like to I'd like to experience the fundamental photography elements that are brought on by this control mechanism that are quintessential for enthusiast shooting. This has always interested me. I've always wanted to get into something like this. So if anybody out there has any input, that would be appreciated. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day. Oh, real quick. Real quick. A lot of people are saying, well, why not just stick with the D70 and get a fast lens? I'm considering that too. But again, go back to the very beginning, and I'll discuss my concerns regarding the D70. But to put it simply, I'm concerned about its future longevity. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.